Boys and girls, it is springtime, it is sunny out, it's getting warmer. We need to get nice with these wheelies, okay? So that's why today I'm teaching you guys the best tips and tricks on how to learn how to wheelie your moped. And I still like to throw the 4-5 like right back. Pull that tack out just to make a statement. He gon' need a body bag or a nice sack. Now this right here is a 1980 Puch Maxi, okay? This thing is vintage, straight out of a garage, bro. My uncle had it for 40 years, didn't run. I fixed it up, got some parts on it, and now it's my little stunt bike, okay? So I'm just gonna start with a little overview of the bike just to show you guys what I've done to mine to make it a little bit more friendly for wheelies. You don't have to do all these mods, like I said. You can wheelie these pretty much stock, but I'm just gonna go over what I've done to it. So first thing that I did to this bike was a 70cc kit, okay? So these are 50cc stock. Mine has a Treatland 70cc kit. I just wanted a little bit more grunt, a little bit more top end. The 70 kits are super easy to install. I got a video putting this one on right here. These things make a world of difference. So next thing I did was a bigger carburetor. This right here is a Delorto PHBG 19mm carburetor. Stock, I think it has a 14mm carburetor, but once again, this is gonna improve performance, but you don't need it. When I put the 70 kit on there, I had the stock carb. It was like a Bing 12mm carb. I had that thing on there and I was doing wheelies with that setup. Right here I have a Proma exhaust. This exhaust is basically made for mid-range power, so it doesn't have the best top end, but I'm telling you, when this thing is in the mid-range, it punches when you hit that throttle. Next we got the ignition. This is a power dynamo ignition and the electronics for it are over here. We got the regulator for it right here for the lights, and this is the ignition coil for the spark. That's the only thing I've done to the engine. The bottom end is completely stock and it's been fine. Most people don't recommend you run a stock bottom end with these 70 kits, but it's been good for me. So now we're gonna move on to what we have done with the frame, okay? These frames are a little bit brittle when you first get them. They're kind of wobbly, you know, it doesn't feel the most solid. So everything I've done is to make this frame more solid. The biggest thing I think that's made a difference is this front suspension. This front suspension is it's just much more beefy than the one I had on it before. It's actually got tubes and decent amount of shock. And when I put wheelies down, this thing feels solid. With this new front end, I got a beefier tire and wheel, which allowed me to put a disc brake on the front end. So I got a hydraulic disc brake on the front. The next thing I wanted to do was in the rear end, which is this right here. This is a swing arm made by MLM. These bikes stock, the swing arms aren't terrible, but they're literally just stamped pieces of metal. When you're up on one wheel, putting all your weight on this rear tire, these swing arms are pretty flimsy and you can almost feel them wobbling around. So this basically gets rid of that. It's a lot more solid and just way more planted for wheelies. Handlebar setup, I just got some aftermarket handlebars. Right here, we got a short pull throttle. So instead of having a full range of motion, this is like a quarter pull. So you get full throttle really quick, which is just nice for going full throttle in wheelies. So this rear suspension right here is also upgraded from stock. The stock one is just super soft and bouncy. These are way more firm when you're putting all your weight back there. Once again, this is something that's really gonna help. This seat is not stock. It's like a cafe racer type seat. And I really like this thing because stock, it has these bicycle seats that sit up about right here. They have your weight really far forward when you're sitting on them and also really high up. So what this seat does is allow you to sit way farther back. So it's like the center of gravity of your body is almost behind the axle, which is gonna help get that wheel up. And it has this hump right here. So when you're doing wheelies, you can kind of rest on this and you're not gonna feel like you're sliding off the back of the seat. And right now in the back, we're still running the stock drum brake, stock gearing, never changed it. And then the last thing I did was get rid of these pedals. These things have pedals normally, and when you're doing wheelies, I just wanted something more solid to put my feet on. So I got pegs in here and I got rear pegs just because. That's about all we got going on with this bike. Let me just address this right away so you guys don't say, oh, you can only wheelie because your bike makes so much power. Oh, you have all these parts. Guys, the most important thing about wheeling these bikes, okay, rule number one is gonna be your body weight. You need to learn how to distribute your weight properly in order to wheelie something like this. This bike weighs nothing. I can pick it up with one arm if I wanted to. You do not need to rely on power to wheelie these things. So if you think you just automatically can't wheelie because your bike doesn't make that much power, not true, not true, false. All right, so now that we got the overview of the bike done, let's go ahead and start to get into what you gotta do to learn how to wheelie these things. Since I got rid of the pedals, I gotta bump start mine. God dang it. It always starts up and then dies. Gotta do it twice like a dummy. There we go. We got the bike started. You're sitting here on your moped and you don't know how to do a wheelie, man. They don't have that much power, okay? So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is just learn where the balance point is and get a feel for this rear brake, because this thing is gonna be the key in everything you do on one wheel. What I did to learn how to wheelie small bikes like this is pull the bike up super slow. And since you don't have a clutch, you don't really have anything to assist you to pull it up. So with these, you gotta use your feet. The number one problem I see when people start to wheelie these things is they expect the bike to do the work for them. Now, these mopeds, no matter what build you have on it, it's not gonna make that much power to where it's just gonna lift the bike up for you. Mine definitely bogs too, which doesn't help at all, but it's not going to do much. So the first thing you want to do just to get used to this rear brake and get used to where the balance point is on these bikes is use your legs to lift the bike up. So while you give it power, keep both feet planted on the ground and use them to pull back as you're lifting up the wheel. So something like this, just like that. And by doing that over and over, all you're doing is learning exactly where your weight evens out on the bike. So if I do that, I can feel like right there I'm too far back. And what you got to do is when you go too far back in a wheelie, you need to hit this rear brake. Pulling that rear brake brings the front wheel back down. That's what I did at first, is use your legs to pull the wheel up, and eventually you can even start dragging them so that you can start moving forward. Something like this. So see, I'm dragging my feet on the ground. No chance if I loop, I can stand up. So no chance I'm gonna fall. So all you wanna do by doing that is basically learn where the bike is gonna balance at and how to keep that throttle steady when you get there, and use the rear brake to balance it. Pull it up, feet on the ground, you're sliding forward. Too far back, pull the rear brake. Too far back, pull the rear brake. And the good thing about these bikes is they're so small and so light that there's no chance it's gonna throw you or give too much power to where it's gonna fly out from underneath you. You almost have full control over this thing. And if you take it as slow as I did, just like I showed you, you're gonna have a really good chance of not even falling while you're learning how to do this. Dragging my feet. Dragging my feet, learning the balance point, hitting the rear brake. So the next really easy fun thing to do on these to kind of learn just control the bike is while you're dragging your feet, try and do some circles. So it's the same concept. Use your feet to pull the bike up, lean to one side. And since your foot's on the ground right here, you're not gonna fall, you know? You're just basically using your feet that are dragging to guide the bike where you want it to go. Both of those are just really good techniques to teach yourself how the bike is gonna react and what your weight is doing with the bike. Like I said, your weight distribution is the most important thing on these bikes. Now let's get into what you're gonna do when you're actually rolling. This is gonna be actually learning how to wheelie, going a little bit faster. Even if you wanna start with your feet down and you got a whole lot ahead of you like this, you can still do that. So feet down, planted, and use them to pull back while you give it power, just like this. If you just drag your feet, you can start to pick up speed a little bit, just like this. I'm still dragging both feet. Right there, your feet are keeping you balanced and you're moving forward. So you're still learning how to use that rear brake. Don't forget, this rear brake is the most important thing when you're doing these wheelies. So as soon as you get a little bit too far back, you're gonna be hitting that rear brake, but it's also throttle control. This is gonna be the part where you feel like you don't have enough power, but I can tell you right now, if any of these guys at this lot right now hopped on this bike and tried to wheelie it like I am, there's no shot they'd be able to get it up because they're just not used to the power. Just to prove that you don't need power, look how fast this bike goes. When I'm giving it full throttle right here, this is how fast I take off. Okay, so as you can see, it's extremely slow, but at the same time, I can go from almost a dead stop, just like this, give it a little gas, and get the wheel up. All that is my body weight. So I'm gonna rock my weight forward and pull back when I give it gas. And trust me guys, this is gonna be frustrating when you're first starting to learn it, but learning how to use your body weight and sitting far back on this seat is gonna be the #1 reason that allows you to get this bike in the air. Just like that. Little blip at the throttle. It almost looks easy when I do it, but it's all about the technique. The next part is just all about feel for the bike. So now you've got your feet down, you're dragging them, you're learning the rear brake, you're getting the throttle control down, but now you want to get your feet up. This is the hardest part about wheeling these mopeds, and I'm still getting better at it because I'm used to dirt bikes, and dirt bikes are a lot more stable. Mopeds, they just get thrown around by anything. A little bit of change in the ground or a little gust of wind throws this thing like a piece of paper. So you got to counteract that with your body weight, and your body weight movements make a gigantic difference on these bikes. It's all going to be in your hips and lower body where you're shifting around on the seat. This is something that really can't be taught in a video. You just need to get out on your bike and ride. It's all about feel for the bike and feel for your body, where you need to be. It's something I can't tell you. I'm gonna try and get some clips to show you guys exactly how much I move around on this thing to try and keep it straight. But I'll tell you right now, it's probably a lot more than you've ever expected. These things are hard to wheelie. But once you get it down, you can really manipulate it, and you can swerve a lot, you can take turns. There's a lot of fun things you can do on these bikes once you get good at it. So as you see, I'm rocking back, hitting the rear brake. Rocking back, hitting the rear brake. Let's go a little faster. All of a sudden the wind's really bad. God damn. So my legs are moving, my knees are moving, my hips are moving. Everything just to try and keep it straight. It's brutal on days like today where there's a lot of wind. As you can see, like how much I'm moving right now to try and keep this thing going straight with a little bit of wind. I hope this is just showing you how much I move around to get this thing to go straight. So don't get frustrated when you're doing your first couple wheelies and you can't go straight, because it's not easy. It's all about seat time. So watch this. Lean forward, put the weight back. That's all it is, over and over. See, even right there, sometimes when I'm slowing down, I take both my feet off the bike and just put them on the ground just to make sure I don't lose my balance too much to one side or the other. So don't forget on these mopeds, man, you have your feet, use them. If you're gonna fall to one side or the other, put your foot down, hop a little bit, get your weight straightened back out. I know it sounds simple, it's not, but those are the steps that I followed to just learn how to wheelie this thing. It's all about just putting in time, getting comfortable with your body weight, shifting it around, and learning that rear brake, which you can do going really slow, super safe. These are fun bikes to wheelie. There's a reason why this little moped, I've put so much money into it. I probably put more money into this bike than I have any of my other bikes this year, and it's just because it's so fun. So if you guys want to get a hold of one of these things, I recommend you do. Treatland.tv is going to be the website you want to go to for parts for this thing. You can get everything you need on there. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys learned something. I just felt like I had to do it because I've been wheeling this bike on my channel, and a lot of people don't even know what these bikes are. So I figured this might help a couple people that are trying to learn. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.